A crowded Los Angeles city bus races through morning traffic. The speedometer climbs past 50 miles per hour. Suddenly, one passenger notices something impossible. The driver can't slow down. Hidden beneath the floor is a bomb programmed to explode the instant the bus drops below 50. Every red light becomes a death sentence. Every traffic jam becomes a nightmare. Every second counts. Released in 1994, Speed transformed a brilliantly simple idea into one of the greatest action films ever made. Directed by Jan de Bont and starring Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, Dennis Hopper, and Jeff Daniels, the film combined breathtaking practical stunts with relentless pacing that barely allowed audiences time to breathe. Instead of relying on impossible gadgets or unstoppable superheroes, Speed placed ordinary people inside an extraordinary crisis where every decision could mean life or death. Nearly every explosion, crash, jump, and collision was filmed for real, pushing the cast and crew to their physical limits. 3 decades later, it remains one of the most influential action thrillers Hollywood has ever produced. 20 facts. Counting down. Fact 20. The entire movie was built around one brilliantly simple sentence. Many action films begin with massive stories before adding spectacular set pieces. Speed was the opposite. Screenwriter Graham Yost first imagined a single terrifying question. What happens if a city bus explodes the moment it slows below 50 miles per hour? That one sentence became the foundation for the entire screenplay. Producer Mark Gordon immediately recognized that the concept required almost no explanation. The danger was instantly understandable. Once Jack Traven boards the speeding bus, audiences know the rules, and the tension never disappears. One unforgettable sequence shows the driver collapsing with a gunshot wound as Annie Porter climbs into the driver's seat, desperately trying to control a 40-foot vehicle weaving through crowded Los Angeles streets. There are no complicated conspiracies to explain and no confusing mythology to memorize. Every obstacle threatens the same terrifying outcome. That elegant simplicity became one of the film's greatest strengths, proving that the most unforgettable thrillers often begin with the clearest ideas. Fact 19. Keanu Reeves almost lost the role after refusing studio demands. Long before The Matrix and John Wick, Keanu Reeves was still searching for the role that would define his action career. Studio executives initially questioned whether audiences would accept him as an explosive action hero. Some producers even favored more established stars before director Jan de Bont insisted Reeves possessed exactly the calm determination Jack Traven required. Reeves accepted the role but rejected suggestions that his action scenes should rely heavily on stunt doubles. He trained extensively in tactical movement, weapons handling, emergency rescue techniques, and high-speed vehicle work before filming began. During one of the movie's earliest sequences, Jack climbs onto the roof of the moving bus while traffic rushes only inches below him. Although specialized stunt performers handled the most dangerous moments, Reeves completed far more physical work than studios expected. His understated performance became a refreshing contrast to the invincible action heroes dominating the early 1990s. Jack survives not because he is unstoppable, but because he keeps thinking under impossible pressure. Fact 18. Sandra Bullock became a superstar almost overnight. Before Speed, Sandra Bullock had appeared in several films but remained largely unknown to mainstream audiences. Everything changed when she stepped onto the bus as Annie Porter, an ordinary passenger suddenly forced to become its driver. Bullock brought humor, vulnerability, and quick intelligence to a role that could easily have been overshadowed by non-stop explosions. One memorable moment shows Annie nervously gripping the steering wheel while maneuvering the speeding bus through impossibly narrow gaps between abandoned vehicles. Her growing confidence mirrors the audience's own hope that survival might actually be possible. Bullock's natural chemistry with Keanu Reeves gave the film an emotional center amid the relentless action. Test audiences responded so enthusiastically that Hollywood immediately recognized a new leading star had arrived. Following the film's release, Bullock's career exploded, leading to decades of major roles across action, comedy, drama, and romance. Few performances have launched an actor's career as dramatically as Annie Porter launched hers. Fact 17. The opening elevator rescue nearly became an entire movie by itself. Many action films would happily build an entire story around a bomb inside a skyscraper elevator. Speed uses that idea as its opening act. Terrorist Howard Payne rigs an elevator carrying office workers with explosives before demanding millions of dollars in ransom. LAPD SWAT officer Jack Traven races onto the roof, crawls through maintenance shafts, and attempts to rescue terrified passengers suspended dozens of stories above the ground. One particularly tense moment shows Jack climbing beneath the elevator itself while it hangs precariously inside the shaft. Every movement risks triggering disaster. The sequence establishes Howard Payne as a criminal willing to manipulate ordinary people rather than confront police directly. It also demonstrates Jack's willingness to risk his own life without hesitation. By the time the famous bus appears, audiences have already experienced a complete action thriller. Most directors would have saved that sequence for the finale. Jan de Bont uses it simply to warm up. Fact 16. Dennis Hopper created one of action cinema's smartest villains. Howard Payne is not stronger than Jack Traven. He isn't faster either. His greatest weapon is preparation. Dennis Hopper portrays the former Atlanta Police Bomb Squad officer as calm, patient, and frighteningly intelligent. Every explosive device is carefully engineered with backup triggers and hidden surprises designed specifically to outsmart the authorities. During one chilling phone call, Howard quietly explains the rules of the bus bomb while watching events unfold from a safe distance through surveillance equipment. Hopper avoids shouting or theatrical outbursts. Instead, he speaks with unsettling confidence, forcing Jack to solve impossible problems while knowing every mistake could kill dozens of innocent people. That calculated intelligence makes Howard Payne one of the most memorable action villains of the decade. Rather than overwhelming the heroes with brute force, he overwhelms them with planning, proving that the most dangerous enemy is often the one who never needs to raise his voice. Fact 15. The impossible freeway jump was actually performed for real. One of the most famous moments in Speed arrives when the runaway bus suddenly encounters a section of unfinished freeway. The road simply ends. With no time to stop, Annie slams the accelerator to the floor as Jack braces himself inside the bus. The vehicle launches through the air, clearing a gap that seems physically impossible before crashing onto the opposite side in an explosion of sparks and shattered suspension. Although miniature models and clever editing enhanced the sequence, production actually launched a full-size transit bus off a specially constructed ramp. The stunt became one of the largest practical vehicle jumps ever attempted at the time. Ironically, engineers later pointed out that the freeway gap changes shape between shots and would never have allowed the bus to make the jump in reality. Director Jan de Bont knew that. He simply believed audiences would forgive impossible physics if the excitement felt real. Judging by the cheers that erupted in theaters, he was absolutely right. Fact 14. Jan de Bont brought a cinematographer's eye to every action scene. Before directing Speed, Jan de Bont had built one of Hollywood's most impressive careers behind the camera. He photographed visually stunning films including Die Hard, The Hunt for Red October, and Basic Instinct. That experience shaped every frame of Speed. Instead of relying on rapid editing to create excitement, de Bont preferred placing cameras dangerously close to the action. During the bus sequences, cameras were mounted beneath vehicles, alongside wheels, inside traffic, and even inches above the pavement. When Annie squeezes the speeding bus between tightly packed cars, the audience feels the terrifying lack of space because the cameras occupy that space themselves. De Bont believed viewers should always understand exactly where every vehicle was located. The result is remarkably clear action that never becomes visually confusing despite the chaos unfolding on screen. His approach influenced countless action directors throughout the following decades. Fact 13. The bus itself became the film's true leading character. Most action movies revolve around cars designed to look exciting. Speed turned an ordinary city bus into one of cinema's most memorable vehicles. Production used multiple GMCT-DH-5303 transit buses throughout filming, each modified for different stunts. Some were reinforced for crashes, others were stripped down to allow hidden camera positions inside the passenger compartment. Several featured specially altered steering systems, so stunt drivers could secretly control the vehicle while actors appeared to be driving. Throughout the film, the bus slides around sharp corners, crashes through roadblocks, leaps over obstacles, and narrowly misses dozens of collisions. One unforgettable shot shows Jack crawling beneath the moving vehicle while traffic rushes past only inches away. By giving the bus its own personality, groaning, shaking, rattling, and barely holding together, the filmmakers transformed a familiar piece of public transportation into one of the greatest action icons of the 1990s. Fact 12. Nearly every explosion was achieved without computer-generated effects. Modern audiences often assume Speed relied heavily on digital effects. In reality, almost everything explodes for real. The elevator blast, the city bus collisions, the gasoline tanker fireballs, and the spectacular subway crash were all created using practical pyrotechnics. Special effects supervisor John Fraser coordinated dozens of carefully timed explosions while stunt teams rehearsed every movement to the second. During one particularly dangerous sequence, abandoned vehicles are launched into the air as the speeding bus tears through blocked traffic. Those cars were propelled using hidden pneumatic systems and explosive charges rather than digital animation. Jean de Bont believed practical destruction produced natural movement impossible to fake with early computer graphics. 30 years later, those explosions still carry remarkable weight because audiences instinctively recognize genuine physical objects being destroyed instead of digital simulations. Fact 11. The bus passengers became surprisingly important to the story. Many disaster movies reduce passengers to anonymous background characters. Speed gives nearly everyone aboard the bus a distinct personality. Alan Ruck plays nervous tourist Stevens. Beth Grant portrays the anxious Helen, constantly worried about losing control. Hawthorne James appears as Sam, whose calm presence helps steady the frightened passengers. Even the argumentative businessman, the elderly woman with her shopping cart, and the young couple contribute meaningful moments throughout the crisis. One tense sequence shows the passengers working together to shift their weight as Annie struggles to maneuver the bus around a sharp corner. Their cooperation reminds viewers that survival depends on ordinary people making extraordinary decisions together. Instead of existing merely to be rescued, the passengers become active participants in the fight to stay alive. That emotional investment raises the stakes far beyond a simple action spectacle. Fact 10. Jeff Daniels shocked audiences with one unforgettable twist. Harry Temple begins the film as Jack Traven's trusted partner and closest friend. Jeff Daniels brings warmth, humor, and steady professionalism to the role, making Harry feel like the experienced officer Jack can always rely upon. After surviving the elevator rescue together, it appears their partnership will continue throughout the story. Then, Howard Payne proves just how ruthless he really is. When Harry unknowingly approaches a house wired with explosives, a hidden bomb detonates instantly, killing him before he even realizes the trap has been triggered. The sudden explosion stunned audiences because it violated a familiar Hollywood expectation. The hero's loyal partner wasn't supposed to die halfway through the film. By removing Harry so unexpectedly, Speed makes it painfully clear that no character is truly safe, dramatically increasing the tension for everything that follows. Fact 9. The subway finale nearly became Hollywood's biggest practical train crash. After surviving the bus, Jack Traven still has one impossible rescue left. Howard Payne escapes into the Los Angeles subway with Annie as his hostage, forcing Jack into one final pursuit beneath the city streets. Rather than ending the film with another gunfight, Jean de Bont wanted a spectacular practical disaster unlike anything audiences had seen before. The production built full-scale subway cars, sections of underground tunnels, and elaborate track systems capable of safely staging massive collisions. As the train hurtles through dark tunnels, sparks shower across the walls while passengers scramble for safety. The climactic derailment sends the subway bursting through a construction site and crashing into daylight in a shower of twisted steel, shattered concrete, and flying debris. Much of that destruction was achieved with full-sized practical effects, miniatures, and precisely timed pyrotechnics instead of computer graphics. Even decades later, The sequence remains remarkably convincing because so much of the destruction actually happened in front of the cameras. Fact 8. Dennis Hopper based Howard Payne on intelligence instead of intimidation. Many action villains dominate through brute strength. Howard Payne never needs to. Dennis Hopper understood that the real terror came from a man who was always thinking several moves ahead. Payne constantly watches Jack through hidden surveillance cameras, predicts police tactics before they happen, and designs every bomb with secondary triggers to punish anyone clever enough to disable the first one. One chilling moment shows him calmly monitoring the speeding bus from a hidden location while casually eating snacks and speaking to Jack over the telephone as though the entire crisis were simply another day's work. Hopper avoids exaggerated anger or dramatic shouting. His quiet confidence makes Howard Payne frightening because he genuinely believes he is the smartest person in every room. The calm delivery transforms even ordinary conversations into psychological battles, forcing Jack to win with intelligence rather than superior firepower. Fact 7. Keanu Reeves performed one stunt that terrified everyone watching. Among the film's many practical stunts, one stands above the rest. Jack Traven leaves a moving sports car, grabs onto the side of the speeding bus, crawls underneath it, and climbs back inside while both vehicles race through live traffic. Although stunt coordinator Mick Rogers handled the most dangerous portions, Keanu Reeves personally performed several moments involving the leap from the car to the bus. The production rehearsed the maneuver repeatedly at lower speeds before attempting the final version. Even then, timing had to be absolutely perfect. A mistake of only a fraction of a second could have sent Reeves beneath the wheels of either vehicle. Jan de Bont later praised Reeves for remaining remarkably calm throughout the sequence, trusting both the stunt team and his own preparation. The result became one of the defining images of 1990s action cinema and demonstrated Reeves's willingness to push himself physically long before The Matrix or John Wick made him famous for doing exactly that. Fact 6. The chemistry between Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock was completely genuine. Jack and Annie spend almost the entire movie trapped together under impossible pressure, and their growing connection never feels forced. Much of that chemistry came naturally. Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock quickly developed an easy friendship during production, constantly joking between takes, despite the exhausting filming schedule. Bullock later revealed that she secretly had a crush on Reeves while making the movie, but never acted on it, because both remained focused on their work. Years afterward, Reeves admitted he had secretly felt the same way without realizing Bullock shared those feelings. Their mutual respect appears throughout the film, particularly during quieter scenes between explosions. One memorable moment shows Annie nervously asking Jack whether relationships built during traumatic experiences ever last. Jack smiles before answering with understated honesty, giving audiences a brief emotional pause before the action begins again. That natural connection helped elevate Speed beyond a conventional action thriller. Fact 5. Speed changed action movies almost overnight. When Speed arrived in 1994, Hollywood immediately recognized that audiences wanted more than endless gunfights and invincible heroes. The film proved relentless suspense could be built around simple rules, practical action, and believable characters making intelligent decisions under pressure. Its influence quickly spread throughout the industry. Films like Air Force One, Executive Decision, Con Air, and countless others adopted similar high-concept formulas where a single dangerous situation drove the entire story. Even decades later, screenwriters still describe thrillers using comparisons like "it's speed on a train" or "it's speed in a skyscraper." That shorthand exists because Graham Yost's original concept became one of Hollywood's defining storytelling templates. Few action films have reshaped the genre so completely. Fact 4. The film rescued Keanu Reeves from being permanently typecast. Before Speed, many audiences still associated Keanu Reeves with comedies like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Some studio executives questioned whether he could convincingly carry a major action blockbuster. Jack Traven erased those doubts almost overnight. Reeves played the character with quiet confidence rather than exaggerated bravado, allowing intelligence and determination to replace flashy one-liners. His restrained style felt refreshingly believable compared with many larger-than-life action heroes of the era. The success of Speed opened the door to The Devil's Advocate, The Matrix, Constantine, John Wick, and one of the most successful action careers in modern cinema. Looking back, Jack Traven stands as the role that permanently changed how Hollywood viewed Keanu Reeves. Fact 3. Jan de Bont created non-stop tension by never letting audiences relax. One of the film's greatest achievements is its pacing. Nearly every scene either introduces a new problem or makes the existing one even worse. First comes the elevator bomb, then the bus, then the wounded driver, then blocked freeways, missing pavement, fuel shortages, frightened passengers, hidden explosives, and finally, the subway. Every victory immediately creates another crisis before viewers have time to recover. Jan de Bont deliberately avoided lengthy exposition between action scenes because he wanted audiences to experience the same exhaustion as Jack and Annie. The result is a thriller that feels almost breathless from beginning to end. More than 30 years later, few action movies maintain suspense as consistently without becoming repetitive. Fact 2. Speed proved practical. Filmmaking could outlast digital spectacle. Many blockbuster action movies from the 1990s now appear visually dated because early computer-generated effects have aged poorly. Speed largely avoided that problem by destroying real vehicles, staging real crashes, and placing real performers inside real danger whenever possible. The bus genuinely smashes through obstacles. Cars genuinely collide. Fireballs genuinely erupt across city streets. Those practical effects still possess physical weight impossible to fake completely. Every impact sends debris flying in unpredictable directions because gravity, not software, is creating the movement. That commitment to practical filmmaking continues inspiring directors who believe audiences instinctively recognize authenticity, even when they cannot explain exactly why. Fact 1. Speed proved the simplest ideas often create the greatest action classics. The cold open began with an ordinary city bus carrying ordinary commuters through Los Angeles. By the final subway crash, Speed has transformed that everyday journey into one of cinema's greatest thrill rides. Jan de Bont, Graham Yost, Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, Dennis Hopper, and an extraordinary stunt team demonstrated that unforgettable action doesn't require superheroes or impossible technology. It requires clear stakes, compelling characters, relentless pacing, and the courage to perform spectacular moments for real whenever possible. Released in 1994, Speed became an instant classic that redefined the modern action film and launched careers that continue shaping Hollywood today. More than 30 years later, one terrifying rule still keeps audiences gripping their seats. Never let the bus drop below 50. And that's 20 facts about Speed, 1994. A simple bomb on a city bus became one of the greatest action movies ever made, proving that the best thrillers don't need complicated ideas, just perfect execution. If you enjoyed this countdown, subscribe for a brand new documentary every week and tell us which classic action film we should explore next. Thanks for watching.